My name is Charlotte Miller, and I'm 54 years old. Life didn't unfold as I had envisioned. My husband, Henry, departed this world 3 years ago due to a tragic car accident. He was a gentle soul, often lost in thoughts that felt distant and unreachable. After his passing, I assumed my days would be filled with nurturing my sunflower garden, participating in small-town gatherings, and enjoying quiet evenings of reading during the summer. But then Ethan entered my life. Ethan Scott, Henry's nephew, is 32 years old and has just returned from New York after stepping away from a high-pressure law career. He mentioned needing some quiet time to rediscover himself. He came to visit on a sunny morning in June. Ethan's dark brown hair shimmered in the sunlight, and his blue eyes mirrored the nearby lake's serene, crystal-clear water. Initially, he stayed in a small cabin by the lake, only occasionally stopping by to see me, always maintaining a respectful distance. However, that distance gradually began to diminish. One afternoon, I was grappling with the backyard fence when a gust of wind toppled a section of the old wooden frame. I sighed, my hands coated in dust and dirt as I attempted to prop it back up. "Let me help." Ethan's warm, steady voice came from behind me. I glanced up to see him approaching, his white button-down shirt slightly wrinkled and clinging to him with sweat. He must have just returned from one of his walks. "You don't have to do that," I said, feeling a twinge of embarrassment. "This is my work." Ethan offered a soft, genuine smile, undeniably charming. "Sometimes you need a partner." He was right, I couldn't even. I recall the last time someone truly extended a hand to assist me. Ethan effortlessly lifted a hefty wooden board, and in no time, we had reconstructed the fence. He wiped the sweat from his brow and beamed as he surveyed our handiwork. "Looks as good as new," he declared. I chuckled, thinking that was a bit of an exaggeration, but his smile made that afternoon feel lighter than it had in years. After we finished the fence, Ethan settled onto the porch steps, releasing a satisfied sigh while I went inside to prepare 2 glasses of iced tea. He gazed out into the distance. His blue eyes reflected the shimmering light of the lake under the afternoon sun. A peaceful silence stretched between us, not heavy but comforting. "You still keep the attic full of memories, don't you?" Ethan asked suddenly, his voice gentle yet curious. I paused for a moment, feeling as if he had just brushed against an old, unhealed wound. The attic was filled with memories, from my wedding photos with Henry to old belongings I couldn't bear to throw away. "Yes, but I never go up there," I replied, my voice small. "Too many memories to confront." Ethan didn't press further. He simply nodded and gave me a small, understanding smile, as if to let me know he understood. The next afternoon was oppressively warm, the kind of heat that hinted at an incoming storm. I tied my hair back and made the decision to finally face what I had long avoided, cleaning out the attic. As I opened the old wooden door, a thin layer of dust swirled up in the beam of sunlight filtering through the window. The old wooden trunk sat quietly in the corner, like a forgotten friend. "Let me help you." I jumped slightly and turned around. Ethan stood there, holding a water bottle, his gray t-shirt lightly dusted from his walk around the lake. Without waiting for me to respond, he stepped inside and lifted the trunk as if it weighed nothing. "Careful," I said, a faint smile playing on my lips. "That trunk is probably older than you." He laughed, setting it down gently. "All the more reason you need a younger set of hands." We opened the trunk together, and old photographs came into view, the memories spilling out like a river, flowing backward through time. I picked up one photo. It was of me in a white floral dress, smiling brightly in a field of flowers during a fall festival. "You were beautiful," Ethan said softly, his eyes lingering on the photo with quiet reverence. I let out a small laugh, though it felt like a defense mechanism. "That was a long time ago. That doesn't matter," he replied, his eyes meeting mine with a tenderness I hadn't seen in anyone since Henry. Without needing to say more, I knew at that moment what was happening between us. It wasn't just about memories. It was something new, something profound. The room suddenly seemed smaller, so quiet that I could hear the sound of my own heartbeat pounding in my chest. "You don't have to face all of this alone," Ethan said, his voice low and steady like a promise. I lowered my head, an unnamed surge of emotions washing over me. I had always believed I had to carry this pain by myself, but for the first time in years, someone was offering to share that burden with me. Nightfall descended, and the house became unusually quiet as I sat alone on the porch, watching the sun. Slowly, the sun sank behind the still surface of the lake. Ethan had ventured out for one of his evening walks along the shore, but my thoughts lingered in the attic, where old memories were illuminated by the presence of someone who had brought an unexpected warmth into my life. I cradled my cup of tea, reflecting on Ethan's words. "You don't have to do this alone." Inside me, something was shifting, gentle yet strong enough to melt the cold armor I had wrapped around myself for so long. A sudden summer rainstorm swept across the small house. The sound, rain fell steadily all around me as I stood by the window, listening to the soothing rhythm. My heart felt both hollow and full of unnamed emotions. Footsteps echoed softly behind me, and I turned to find Ethan standing there, his hair damp from the rain, his gray t-shirt marked with a few wet spots. His eyes held a steady resolve mixed with uncertainty. "Are you okay?" he asked, his deep, warm voice filling the quiet room. I nodded slightly, but he stepped closer anyway, his gaze searching for something more. It was searching for something deeper inside me. "Do you need help?" Ethan asked, gesturing to the pile of books and photo albums we had abandoned the day before. I forced a small smile. "I think we've done enough for now," but he stayed close and I could feel the warmth radiating from him, the faint scent of rain lingering on his damp clothes. My heart began to race. A heart I thought had long since quieted after loss was now fluttering like that of a young girl in love for the first time. Ethan's voice softened as he spoke. "There are burdens in life that were never meant to be borne in solitude, Charlotte." I shook my head slightly, attempting to steady my racing thoughts. "Ethan, we shouldn't," but my voice faded away, consumed by the intimacy surrounding us. He reached out and lightly brushed my hand. It was a brief contact, yet it felt as if the very ground beneath me had transformed. "Charlotte," Ethan whispered, his voice so gentle that I found myself unable to look away from his earnest gaze. His hand lingered on mine, and the warmth of it flowed into my skin, enveloping me. The space between us trembled, becoming almost non-existent. I could feel his steady yet slightly quickened breath. Then, as if crossing an invisible boundary, Ethan leaned down and gently placed a kiss on my forehead. I closed my eyes, allowing myself to absorb that soft, tender kiss that made my heart feel as though it would burst. When I opened my eyes, I looked into his sea blue gaze again. This time, there was no distance left to keep us apart. His next kiss brushed against my lips, gentle, yet filled with a depth I hadn't felt in all the lonely years that had passed. Everything faded away, the pain, the old memories, the fears that had held me back. Outside, the rain fell softly, while inside that small room, warmth enveloped me. I realized I had crossed a threshold my mind had spent years constructing. Ethan's arms encircled me in an embrace that transcended mere physical closeness. It felt as if he were attempting to heal all the wounds I had borne in solitude. Unable to restrain myself any longer, I wrapped my arms around his shoulders, our breaths intertwining as one, and the room seemed to descend into complete silence. In that moment,